Welcome back to CBS Mornings. Best-selling author David Magee usually writes about business leaders and sports figures. But his latest book, Dear William, a father's memoir of addiction, recovery, love, and loss, turns the focus inwards to his own life struggles. He says it was a way to understand his son's death from a drug overdose. Jim Axelrod shows us how Magee's book is more than just a story of sorrow. It's also about resilience and hope.
They had this idea to build this Letterman's Walk.
Nothing makes David Magee prouder than his son's name on the Letter Winners Walk at the University of Mississippi.
There's something about having that name, your son's name, for that work he did engraved, you know? Right there.
And nothing makes him sadder as well.
I shed a tear every time I come.
William Magee lettered in track at Ole Miss while attending the Honors College. He was, his dad says, a golden kid.
And that's the whole point, isn't it?
That is the whole point. I mean, it'll take anybody down.
In 2013, less than a year after graduation, William died from a drug overdose.
To get on the phone, to your child's mother, my wife, and say, he's gone. Hardest words you'll ever say.
David Magee's journey to understand what happened to his son is now a brutally honest memoir, Dear William.
I had to go look at what happened in our family. How did this, what looked like a picture-perfect American family chasing that dream, how did that dream get completely shattered? You and William were learning to ski.
Magee tells a story of intergenerational trauma, how his parents' lies about his adoption, how his struggle with alcohol, how his infidelity all led to suffering for his wife and 3 kids, a story he thinks will resonate in many homes.
And I think that's why I went that deep in revealing what was a very honest story about just an average American family. I mean, we're nobody. We're just everybody.
His wife, Kent, and his son, Hudson, who had his own near-fatal overdose, were both on board with this highly public airing of their family trauma.
I just think that with everything that happened to me and to William, something good has to come from that.
Brutal, total honesty is the best medicine, I've been told, and keeping secrets make you sick, but turning toward your painful story and owning it is essential, or else it owns you.
He kept daily going back to substances to alter his feeling.
Magee has now dug in, speaking to any students who will listen and delivering a wake-up call to parents about their kids' loss of hope.
Do you feel kids today are nose to nose with despair in a way that maybe their parents' generation wasn't?
Absolutely. Something has changed generationally. I consistently hear from them, I'm not sure if I can get a job as good as my dad had. I'm not sure I could buy the house we have. I'm not sure I'll be able to buy a car.
Then add in fallout from the pandemic. A study on its effect by Duke University psychologist Kenneth Dodge shows the greatest spike in substance use was seen in adults 19 to 22, and that children of parents with substance issues run an even higher risk for substance abuse.
A young adult looks to her or his parents about what their hopes were, and if that person sees difficulty, that makes it harder to feel hope.
A fact that still cripples David Magee.
Our children were falling apart before our eyes, but I was so lost in my struggle that I couldn't see it.
So to help a kid who's in crisis, before you look just at the kid, spend some time at the mirror.
And you will not always like what you see. Hello?
His family has started the William Magee Center to address substance abuse at Ole Miss, and then share what they learn with other schools.
We have to get better at this as a country.
David Magee's contribution is the raw story of his family's heartbreak and healing, and he's determined to tell it to give others hope.
But you can wrestle meaning even from the deepest, darkest pain.
The darkest moment can, often be a real energy source for doing good and doing well and living well.
What a brave thing, Jim. Yeah. Talk about cutting yourself open and exposing yourself, warts and all. That's very powerful.
Yeah, he said, look, if you're going to do this, you got to go wide open. You got to go to the bone, or else it's not going to be helpful to other families that are reading the story. And he wants to put that pain into service of broadening out to address the generation. Yeah. A generation of 20-somethings, teens, that grew up on active shooter drills, grew up on climate crisis, grew up on a political system that seems incapable of addressing their needs.
Yeah.
If substance abuse is an attempt to medicate that pain, understand this generation's pain.
Yeah.
It's different.
It is different. It is different. I do think parents should hold themselves accountable and ask themselves what they did to contribute to a situation, but David seems to put a lot of blame on himself looking in the mirror.
I mean, he's processing not just the death of his son, but the near death of Hudson, who we just saw from an overdose. So I think his look inward is, he's carrying a weight that's a lot heavier than even other people who've dealt with stuff like
Yeah, and I
this.
think when people deal with tragedy, the easiest thing, maybe the first thing you want to do is ask why. You look up to the heavens and you say why, but you rarely look in the mirror and ask why. And that's what he's doing.
I think that's the whole point.
But I don't know there's any rational explanation for this sort of stuff. I mean, my dad was a hard drug user for most of his life. I'm not.
There's a genetic, I think you're raising an important point, Tony. There is a genetic component to some of this stuff, but it's not just that. There's a whole, another dimension of assessing pain.
Right.
That has
I
nothing
wonder,
to do
was
with
it a
genetic
difficult
predisposition.
decision for the family? Because, listen, it's extremely personal. You're talking about family his marital infidelity, which is very difficult, I would imagine, from his wife's point of view, going through what they were going through with their children. I wonder, was it hard for them to say, we're going to expose everybody? I love when he said, we're nobody, yet we're just everybody.
That is
unsung hero of the whole thing, Kent Magee. That the wife was, after spending a day with the family, there is such strength and grace there. It was a privilege to be in their presence.
Yeah.
Was that a little grandchild running?
Yeah, they live
big congrats there.
right in the backyard, contiguous houses. So
nice.
they're rebuilding.
That's lovely.
They really are rebuilding.
It's really nice. That was a very powerful story. Thank you, Jim Axelrod.